It just keeps getting better. What is up, guys? It is the Chronicler bringing to you a book review tonight. This time, we are going into spoilers. This is The Dragon Reborn. This is by Robert Jordan, of course, the incredible author of the amazing series, The Wheel of Time. This is book number 3, and I'm going to shock many of you guys right now by admitting The Dragon Reborn, by the skin of its teeth, is my favorite of the first 3 Wheel of Time books. I know that might sound crazy to say, but it is my truth, guys. I have enjoyed this one of the original trilogy. This is my favorite book so far. We've just been on a complete upward trajectory with this series so far. And if you guys haven't, please go and check out my reviews for book 1, The Eye of the World, and for book 2, The Great Hunt. Both are excellent books that you should go and read right now. Anyways, like I mentioned, guys, The Dragon Reborn is my favorite of the first 3 books. It shock and surprise many people for one big and understandable reason, and that is that the title character, The Dragon Reborn, is hardly in it. Randolph Thor is hardly in the book, but I think that's okay, and I'll kind of explain why. But to this point in the series, guys, I hadn't found Rand all that interesting, if I'm being honest, and I actually enjoyed how they keep him off on his own in this book. And I think doing so kind of makes him come off as more dangerous and more kind of unhinged in The Dragon Reborn. For the little screen time that he has in this book, he is rather ruthless, and I love that. Now, The Dragon Reborn begins with much of the main cast at their camp in the Mountains of Mist, where Rand is beginning to lose his sanity. He literally makes an entire mountainside shake, and you really get a sense that the power he's learning is beginning to take him over. Perrin and the others at the camp are starting to become wary of Rand. It's also near the beginning that Perrin has, in my opinion, one of the coolest scenes in the book, and even in the book series to that point. This is when he dreams of seeing a floating crystal sword amongst a series of mysterious red columns. And the crystal sword is, of course, in the cover here, guys. That is Kalendor. It is the sword that's not actually a sword. But the picture that Robert Jordan paints here in that scene is incredible. And I can still imagine it, clear as crystal to this day. From here, guys, we're off and running as the dragon camp there in the Mountains of Mist is attacked by Trollocs and Myrdrolls. It's an amazing action scene, very kind of in-depth and violent, and it's just delicious to read. And Rand then escapes to the Stone of Tyr on his own after nearly being killed, after he reluctantly allows Moiraine to heal him, and it doesn't really work, and he kind of says, screw it, I'm just going to go off and do my own adventure my own way. I'm tired of being puppet stringed by Moiraine, and that is a great thing about this book. What people don't realize, the first couple books, as Rand and many of the characters mentioned several times, they feel that they're being kind of strung along by Moiraine, and in The Dragon Reborn, he goes off on his own, and I like that. I like the more unhinged and, incontrollable version of Rand. But like I mentioned, Perrin has an awesome fight scene at the beginning. We also get into Matt's dagger situation getting resolved. He has the kind of dagger exorcism that kind of takes him away from the darkness that's got control over him. There's more trippy trainings at the White Tower with the Accepted, which I loved in The Great Hunt, as I mentioned, guys. That is some of my favorite fantasy stuff that happened so far in The Wheel of Time. We have lots of great fights. We have reuniting with old friends and the Aiel. The Aiel scene, they get such an epic introduction in this book whenever they free Egwene and Elaine and Nynaeve from the Myrddraal and the Trollocs that have them captured. That is such a cool scene, and it paints such a mysterious and awesome picture of what the Aiel could be, and the potential for them is incredible in this book. And there's such an interesting new set of characters that I just instantly fell in love with them. And as I said before, guys, in previous reviews, I feel that the quality of a Wheel of Time book seems to hinge on whether that book has good character groupings. Now, what do I mean by this? Maybe certain books you follow Moraine and Lan a lot, and that could be a good grouping of characters. Or you follow Perrin and Matt, and that's also a very good grouping. Or you kind of follow some other characters that don't interest you much. So a lot of the books seem to really hinge on, is this group of characters interesting for this book? And in the Dragon Reborn, I think the answer for me at least is yes. And I feel that, the grouping of Matt and Tom especially is an epic duo for most of this book and the funnest to read about in the series so far for me. I love Tom overseeing Matt, kind of like a disappointed father overseeing his arrogant son. It's such a peanut butter and jelly combo, and it was so much fun to read. This book also does a good job of setting the stage for Matt finally showing how competent his own skills are after he defeats a cocky Galad and Gawain in a practice sword fight. That was simply just satisfying to read. You kind of felt like the underdog got one over on the popular kid in that scene, and like I mentioned, it was just so much fun and really kind of starts to flesh Matt out more as a character than what we got before. This book also introduces more about the dream world, which I loved, and in Perrin's interactions with the wolves. His wolf brothers are epic and total fantasy goodness. I'm a big dog person in general, guys, and the whole wolf brother dynamic was great for me. It's always fun to read those parts. Even when the fan favorite, in quotes, I'm being a little sarcastic there, Fail comes into the picture in this book, I actually really enjoyed her interactions with Moraine, Lan, and Perrin at the beginning, and how she's kind of a reluctant and mysterious companion at first. I thought that played well with those guys, and that it seemed to bring an air of mystery, and it brought in more characters, which was nice. She really felt like the Wheel of Time began to introduce more interesting characters into the main fold, and I like that she has this dangerous grace of an assassin about her. She's very Aiel-like, so that the introduction of her plus the Aiel were a good combination for me. And also, guys, obviously you have the final climactic meeting of the characters in the Stone of Tyr, which is a great setting, an epic setting. It really lets your imagination go with what this big mysterious mountain of a fortress looks like, and I really enjoyed reading that part. Rian wielding Kalendor with a blaze of power and defeating who he thought was Balsamon is a great ending, and it was so epic, at least in my imagination it was, but really enjoyed that portion of the book. Moraine even has a great moment that is the first use of the epic power Balefire, which she uses to kill Balal, one of the dreaded Forsaken. And this also introduces Balefire itself, which is an important and deadly new power into the series. According to the Wheel of Time wiki, I found this kind of interesting. I mentioned character groupings before, and this book is mostly dominated by Egwene, Perrin, and Matt. Those three POV characters make up the most they take up the most time in this book, which was good for me, with Rand obviously taking a back seat. But like I mentioned, I didn't mind this in this case. This helped lend to the idea that he's losing his mind, and the juxtaposition with that fear of him actually switching as he takes up Kalendor and becomes a great hero toward the end, made for quite an epic ending to quite an epic book. And like I said, guys, I enjoyed 1 and 2 a lot. This felt like the incredible ending to a great trilogy of books, even though there is, obviously it's not the end. There are several books, but if I look at this first 3 as a trilogy, I think it's an amazing ending. And it's unapologetically my favorite so far. And I would love to know how you guys feel about it in the comments below. Agree, disagree. Please let me know below, guys, and like the review if you enjoyed it. Let me know. Let's discuss it. I love this kind of stuff. I give The Dragon Reborn an S tier for me. Absolutely adored the book. Please, guys, go pick this series up and enjoy it. And may the light illumine you.